This is my lesson plan assignment. I am Samuel. I've mainly decided on two changes that I want to have been made to this lesson, and that is to make it more centered around discussion and argumentation. And to do that, I've added one extra activity to the lesson. This is to reflect the policy documents with the core content for English 5, specifically for production and interaction. This is the one I had in mind. I believe this is focused around being able to discuss, express your own opinions, as well as listen to others, ask them clarifying questions, and being able to answer clarifying questions. And one way to practice this, I believe, is to have discussions, argumentations, and we can use the materials in this lesson to, well, practice this. So to reflect this, the first change I made was, instead of the students just comparing what they wrote, I want them to work together with the other pair to create a consensus list where they agree upon it. I believe this encourages the students to engage more, since it will become or feel more realistic and be more interactive for them, so they hopefully will engage more. And I also believe it helps them to start laying the groundwork for how they can critically think about these topics. And again, it's for argumentation and discussion. This is based on what Barack Rochenstein writes in Principle of Instructions. In step 2, he writes that when you present new materials, you should do it in small steps with students practice after each step. So each step has become incredibly, or not incredibly, but successively more difficult. And you have now more opinions that you have to discuss and argue against and for. You have more topics to do it for and against it again. But you will already have the groundwork you laid in the previous activity. So for your own topics, you will become quite comfortable with talking about them. But now we also have to take into account the other topics that the other group decided on. And I believe that this will help the students become more engaged with the material, while making it harder but still being manageable to a degree. We also provide models, so this step is about providing students with models and work examples so that they learn to problem solve faster. Having heard how different people argue for and against certain topics is quite helpful. We help the student practice being nuanced or understanding nuance, hearing different opinions. And we want the students to be able to form their own opinions, but also hear what other people has to say. And if they already have done this step, they might have learned what different opinions might look like, which might help them later during the essay writing. This is also because I want to create a more CLT based lesson. Just comparing two different lists isn't that interactive for the students, and it isn't that meaningful, I believe. So this step will facilitate a more communicative language teaching approach. And Siegel mentions that this is a great tool to create engaging and meaningful learning experiences. It helps students develop practical communication skills, and it does this through real life and authentic context focused interactions. Like I said, this is an amazing tool to make the students more engaged with it. This is material, or this is an activity that they definitely will encounter in real life. They most certainly will argue for and against something at some point, and probably has already done it in their first language, but now they get to do it in a second language. And I believe CLT is a really good way of practicing this. He also mentions listening strategy, the two-way listening, which is directly reflected in the core content, in the way that it you have to listen to different opinions, but you can interact with it, you can ask clarifying questions. And I agree with Siegel that this is a very good way to structure a lesson, which is why I've decided to done this. And furthermore, the second change is sort of along the same lines, but here you have to more present it to the whole class, kind of. Again, it's based on Baruch Rorschach's principle of instructions. Through guided practice, I want them to be able to express their own opinions and listen to others' opinions. And this is how I kind of expect them to express themselves in the written essay. And since the teacher writes up the topic on the board, they might be able to associate, oh yeah, we said this about this topic for and against, and we said that about that topic. And that is a great way to create scaffolding, and scaffolding is a type of guided practice. It helps students later when they plan their essay to reflect on what has been said and what they can write about. Which is why I've decided to incorporate this activity in the lesson. Another reason is that we are practicing meaning-focused input and meaning-focused output, as Paul Nation says in the 4 strands. They are already quite comfortable with the material. They have presented their opinions twice already, once when working in pair, once in groups, and now for the whole class. So for output, they are already comfortable speaking about their own opinions, but now they also get input where they get to hear about topics that perhaps they didn't discuss and learn vocabulary and how they would argue, and perhaps also hear how other groups argued for their specific topics. And the combination of them both usually takes place, and I believe this is a very good inclusion of the lesson, which is why I decided to add this. And yeah, here are my reference lists. It became a little bit longer, but I hope that's okay.